Rocket Mortgage. Need a mortgage that fits your life? Rocket can.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Jake Asman.
Time to check in with a good friend of the show. He's covered the Texans for a long time. Now he is over at OutKick.com. He is Cody Stoots, and he joins us now. And Cody, by the way, this is the first time you've been back on the show since you were kind enough to allow me to shower at your place for almost a week due to the incompetence of my building not having any hot water. So I thanked you already on the air. I thanked you off the air, but now I want to thank you in person, or I guess over the phone, I should say, on the air as well. So thank you very much, Cody.
It's a pretty great shower, right? It's like almost hotel-ish.
You did a tremendous job. I mean, you and the towel service you provided. I mean, you made it very easy. You made me feel comfortable. I appreciate that.
That's good. It's hard to be comfortable at someone else's home when you're in your shower moments.
It's a fair point as well. All right, I wanted to get you on, of course, to talk about J.J. Watt signing with the Cardinals. You've covered the Texans for a long time on local radio. You most recently covered them, of course, for Sports Illustrated. What was your initial reaction when you saw J.J. Watt sign with the Arizona Cardinals?
Well, my initial reaction was, I think it's really cool. J.J. Watt announced that he was going to Arizona, and it wasn't Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport or somebody breaking the news. I wonder how many athletes will be doing that going forward. But Arizona was, one of probably the 12 or 13 teams that I thought he could end up with. My thought process with Arizona was they're desperate to take that next step, both from a head coach standpoint and a general manager standpoint. So adding a J.J. Watt would probably be a very big positive move for them. I didn't think that they were probably one of the 5 or 6 best teams. And certainly when you hear and you read that other teams were on the pursuit for J.J. Watt and they were in the similar contract status that he got with Arizona, it must have just been a fantastic sell job by Arizona. It's a great job by them. And for J.J. Watt, he gets to go to a division where you can make a solid argument he plays for the best quarterback in that division if Russell Wilson leaves. And so that's a good spot for him to be in. He knows DeAndre Hopkins, so he had an intimate knowledge of this organization. And they seem pretty pumped to get him. He's going to be featured. He's going to be a big-time piece of what they do. And one of the most important things for Watt that I think played a lot into the decision, Chandler Jones, if he's healthy and Watt plays with him this year, it's going to be the best player that J.J. Watt's ever played with on a defense. Chandler Jones is fantastic. He and Watt have probably watched each other climb the various defensive statistic charts, each year against each other. So they have to have intimate knowledge of who each other is as a player, and that's a fearsome duo for the Cardinals.
Cody Stoots from OutKick with us here. If J.J. Watt stays healthy and he plays opposite Chandler Jones, can the Cardinals maybe have a top 5 defensive unit? Like when you watch J.J. Watt play, Cody, how much do you think he still has left playing at a high level?
There's a lot left. He's definitely a 10-sack guy. I don't know that he's a 15-sack guy or like a 17-sack guy like he was in his prime, but the between the ears savvy that J.J. Watt possesses is at an all-time high, even with his body not as impressive from a physical standpoint as he was when he was a 3-time defensive player of the year. He's still very physically gifted. He's still very good against the run. He still has the ability to swat passes, which is something that is underrated for defensive linemen that not enough defensive linemen are great at, and Watt is still great at that. And it's going to be tough for Arizona to maximize that defense. Vance Joseph has been up and down in his career in charge of various defenses, and even when he's had some solid players, they've had some questionable defenses under him. And I think the Cardinals is looking, and I think out of Arizona, the comment is, they have 7 other defensive players, 6 other defensive players that they want to bring back. That's just not going to be fiscally possible with the way the money situation in Arizona is. So there's going to be some tough decisions because of J.J. Watt's presence, which makes it that more important that J.J. Watt plays 16 games, that he's really effective in those 16 games. And I do believe he can be. And pairing him with Jones, I don't know what the potential is for Jones plus Watt, because Jones has not really had a guy like Watt opposite him, and Watt has never had a guy like Jones opposite him.
Cody Stoots with us here as we talk about J.J. Watt signing, of course, with the Arizona Cardinals. Cody, from a head coaching standpoint, though, with Kliff Kingsbury, you, of course, know him from his days at Texas Tech. You've seen him his first couple of years in the NFL. He's now entering year 3, so I could make the case that this is kind of a make-or-break year for Kliff. You got to try and maximize your window of opportunity with your young quarterback on his rookie deal. Is anything short of the playoffs a failure for Kliff? Could he be on the hot seat if they don't get it done this year?
First time in Kliff Kingsbury's career, he's actually recruited a big-time defensive player, and it's paid off for him. Guy couldn't recruit defense in Texas Tech to save his life. Coached up some really good offenses there, but defense, big issue. Kingsbury's absolutely on the hot seat. I mean, this is an organization that is just as likely to be in the playoffs as they are to be talking to Doug Peterson in the offseason next year to be their head coach. I mean, this is a really weird spot for Kliff Kingsbury and general manager Steve Keim as well. And you got to remember, Keim was the guy that was allowed to hire Steve Wilks, draft Josh Rosen in the first round, and then Steve Keim got to hit the reset button when he didn't like Rosen or Wilks, and his move was to draft Kyler Murray. That worked out, and hire Kliff Kingsbury. Bit questionable. Kingsbury has not had a significant track record of big-time success as a head coach, and that is something that should be of intense concern for Cardinals fans. If they do not make the playoffs, not only do I believe Kliff Kingsbury will, but he should be shown the door in Arizona. They have to make the playoffs and maybe even win a playoff game in impressive fashion if Kingsbury wants to keep his job. And if he is shown the door, that's a big, big-time job right there when you think about Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and some of the studs that they do have on that team.
Cody, from the Texans' perspective now, of course, everyone wants to know about Deshaun Watson and what his status is going forward. Do you believe the time is now for the Texans to actually listen to offers for Deshaun Watson?
I think you listen all the way until the day of the draft, until one of the teams that'd be interested in him is on the clock, maybe. You're not going to get the best offer right now unless somebody, accidentally has a Bill O'Brien level of incompetence running their team and they just hand you, 2 drafts worth of picks. And then you're like, okay, this is great. The deal that would make you say yes now is probably not going to be on the table until a day, 2 days before the NFL draft, if that deal does come. So listen as much as you can, and then think about not only picks, but maybe low end back end roster guys that you love off of other rosters. If you're Nick Caserio, that might be interested in Deshaun Watson, and just try to get as much as you absolutely can. But you listen right now, sure. Why would I make the trade right now? Absolutely not. There's so much more negotiating to be done, and there's so many different things you can play against other teams, because I'd be very shocked if it's just one team interested in Deshaun Watson. Now, as you get closer to the draft, you do run the risk that maybe the Dolphins fall in love with someone at 3. Maybe the Jets fall in love with Zach Wilson at 2. Maybe the Panthers fall in love with Justin Fields or Trey Lance, and then they don't want to pursue Deshaun Watson anymore. And once you get out of those 3 teams, it gets very tough to see how the value is going to be an appropriate level of value. So it's a fine line. It's not an easy job by Nick Caserio. There's not an easy task that Nick Caserio has in his job as a general manager. And you got to listen now so that you're getting the best deal when you do make the deal.
Cody, I've said all along, I think the key for the Texans in trying to just get as much as possible for Deshaun is to try and get the Jets and the Dolphins picking 2nd and 3rd overall in the draft to basically, duke it out for the best offer for Deshaun, play them against each other. Do you think those are the 2 teams, when it's all said and done, that the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes could come down to?
With the extreme number of additional selections that those teams have, it makes a lot of sense. I was texting with somebody just last night about how the Dolphins, could potentially hand the Texans a situation where they've got 6 selections in the top 100 in this year's draft. If Miami wants to make that type of deal, and if you think about 6 top 100 players in the draft, I mean, the Texans are currently slated to have 2 top 100 guys in the NFL draft right now. So it's, and by the way, it's only 2 in the top 100 because they have 67 and 100, which is their own pick. It's not like they're getting, guy 10 or guy 12. Yeah, you've got to create some sort of bidding war between any teams. Carolina can get into the equation with some draft picks and some players, which is a unique combination. but the draft pick haul is primarily centered on the Jets and their multiple first-round picks that they own from Seattle, and then the Dolphins and their additional first and second-round pick that they own, ironically, from the Texans. So that is where you really need to create the desire for Deshaun Watson, because if the Dolphins look around and they seem to have a Super Bowl-ready defense, and then their offense is still what it was last year, that's going to be a really tough season to go through unless Tua Tagovailoa takes a huge step forward. As for the Jets, is Deshaun Watson better than Zach Wilson? Today he is. Will he be in 5 years? More than likely. In 10 years, is he still going to be a Jet and better than Zach Wilson? I don't know. That's something Joe Douglas is going to have to think about. It's something he's going to have to weigh. Wilson versus Fields versus Lance versus Watson and the cost to get Deshaun Watson. There's a lot that goes in there, but you've got to create that sense of urgency between two or three teams, and specifically the team picking number 2 and number 3, the Jets and the Dolphins.
See, if I'm Nick Caserio, Cody, what I would do is I would try and make a deal with the Jets first, and then if I can, I'd pivot to the Dolphins, because I think if I could get that second overall pick, even if I don't love one of these quarterbacks coming out, you could sell the fan base on a total rebuild if you then flip that second pick into even more assets, right? So, maybe you don't take a quarterback now and you kind of put your franchise in the best possible position to, maybe be the Philadelphia Sixers, if you will, of the NFL for a year or two, and just load up on all these picks to try and set the rebuild and build the foundation of the team.
Yeah, if you could go from 2, let's say you go from 2 to 8, because Carolina really likes Zach Wilson, and you could go from 8 to 12 because the 49ers really like Justin Fields, you're certainly going to add an additional first-round pick in that movement. You're probably adding additional mid-round picks, and you still get to pick at, say, 12 and whatever that Jets pick that from Seattle is in the 20s. And you still get 2 first-round picks, and then you've added an additional first-round pick for the following year, giving you 3 first-round picks in addition to additional middle-round stuff. Look, the Jets is ideal. It's just going to be tough to get them to give the thumbs up on trading away a lot of assets and being in a spot where it's going to be tough to immediately improve the roster in a long-term situation. Certainly they have free agency money and they can improve it in a short-term situation, but we know that free agency is a lot like, buying stuff with a credit card. Payment comes due at some point, and that's going to be tough in 2-3 years. When you look around at Deshaun Watson, you say, yeah, we got to get rid of this guy, because we spent too much money when you first got here. So that's a tough one. I ultimately think Miami's the key to this, because if somehow they don't want to get interested, then the Jets own a lot of power, because their pick is significantly, far and away, way better than anybody else that's not Miami.
Cody, I got 1 minute left. Give me your take on whether or not you see a scenario where Russell Wilson would actually be traded away from the Seahawks.
Real weird approach by Russell Wilson. You either want to go or you don't want to go. This does nothing to increase your leverage on who you want to be on the team and the say that you want to have in personnel. And the team seemingly was fine diming out Russ to the Athletic in a very deep expose about some of his actions. Can I see him getting traded? Yes. Can I see him getting traded to the people on his list? I mean, does Russ really want to go to the Bears? How do the Cowboys make that work? Look, I know the salary cap's malleable, but how in the world would the Saints make that work? By the way, Drew Brees hasn't retired yet. Find that funny a little bit.
He's not going to. I'm telling you. He's posting workout videos. You don't do that if you're retiring.
Yeah, it's very, very strange what Drew Brees has got going on. I don't see it for Russell Wilson unless somebody just absolutely shocks us. I don't see it in Russell Wilson going anywhere.
Cody, appreciate your time today. I appreciate you for allowing me to shower at your home when I had no hot water for basically a week and a half. So thank you for that, and we'll talk to you soon. I hope all is well at OutKick so far. We miss you coming on the show each and every week.
Hey, you're welcome at the house to shower whenever you don't have water, or even if you do have water, you just want to use the hotel shower.
I'll keep that in mind. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Cody Stoots from OutKick with us there. He joined us on our Progressive guest line, quoting Homer Church. It just got easier with Progressive's Home Quote Explorer, quote and buy all online at progressive.com. Up next, we wrap up our show here on a Tuesday morning. Jake Asman with you for a few more minutes. You're listening to the Jake Asman Show here on Sports Map Radio.
The Jake Asman Show.
I've been without hot water